Few countries in the world are as old as Iran. It is home to one of the earliest civilizations in human history. Despite many foreign invasions from Mongols, Greeks, and Arabs, Iran has preserved its language, poetry, and unbreakable identity. This is the 5,000 years history of Iran. Before the word Iran existed, the Iranian plateau was already home to some of the earliest human communities in the world. By around 3000 BC, a powerful civilization known as Elam had emerged in southwestern Iran, centered around the city of Susa. Unlike many later empires, Elam was not founded by a single conqueror or ruler arriving from elsewhere. Instead, it developed gradually from the local populations already living in the region, who over centuries organized themselves into complex city-states and kingdoms. The Elamites created their own writing systems, built large temples and monumental structures, and became active participants in trade and conflict with neighboring Mesopotamian powers such as the Sumer and Babylon. For nearly 2,000 years, Elam remained one of the major powers of the ancient world. But by the 6th century BC, after repeated Assyrian invasions and the sack of Susa around 646 BC, the Elamite power finally collapsed. Its fall cleared the stage for the rise of the Achaemenid Empire. The true transformation of Iran began in the first millennium BC, when Indo-Iranian tribes from the Central Asian steppes migrated into the Iranian plateau. Over time, these migrating peoples settled across the plateau and gradually formed new societies. Among them were two groups that would shape the future of the region, the Medes and the Persians. The Medes were the first to establish a large Iranian kingdom in the 7th century BC, known as the Median Kingdom, uniting various tribes under a centralized authority. But it was their southern neighbors, the Persians, who created one of the greatest empires the world had ever seen. In 550 BC, a man named Cyrus the Great changed the history of the region. Cyrus came from the Persian kingdom of Anshan, located in what is now Fars province in southwestern Iran. He defeated the Median king Astyages and united the Iranian tribes under his leadership. But Cyrus did not stop there. Within a few decades, his armies conquered the kingdom of Lydia in Anatolia, captured Babylon, and expanded Persian power eastward toward Central Asia. What made Cyrus remarkable was not only the speed of his conquests, but also his method of rule. Unlike many conquerors before him, he allowed local religions, traditions, and customs to continue. When he captured Babylon in 539 BC, he permitted exiled peoples, including the Jews, to return to their homelands and rebuild their temples. These policies were recorded on the famous Cyrus Cylinder. It was a clay cylinder describing Cyrus's conquest of Babylon and his policy of restoring temples and returning displaced populations. Because of these ideas of tolerance and restoration, some modern scholars have described the Cyrus Cylinder as one of the earliest expressions of human rights in history. Under Cyrus the Great and his successors, especially Darius I, the Achaemenid Empire became the largest empire the world had yet seen. At its peak under Darius I, it covered approximately 5.5 million square kilometers. The Persians built an advanced administrative system. They constructed long-distance roads, including the famous Royal Road, standardized taxation, and organized their vast lands into provinces called satrapies. Their imperial capital at Persepolis became a symbol of imperial power, where ambassadors from Egypt, Greece, and India came to present tribute. For nearly 2 centuries, this empire stood at the center of the known world. Then came its downfall. In 330 BC, the young Macedonian conqueror Alexander the Great invaded Persia. Within just 8 years, the Achaemenid Empire collapsed. Persepolis was burned, and Alexander proclaimed himself the new ruler of Persia. After Alexander's death in 323 BC, his vast empire fragmented among his generals in a series of conflicts known as the Wars of the Diadochi. Control of Persia eventually fell to the Seleucid Empire, founded by Seleucus I Nicator. For nearly a century, the Seleucids ruled much of Iran. Greek cities were founded, Greek language and culture spread, and the region became part of a vast Hellenistic world, stretching from the Mediterranean to Central Asia. Yet this foreign rule remained fragile. The Seleucid kings struggled to control their distant eastern territories, and local Iranian traditions and identities persisted beneath the surface. By the mid-3rd century BC, a new Iranian power began to rise in the northeast, which would eventually establish the Parthian Empire. The Parthians were originally nomadic Iranian people called the Parni from Central Asia. They settled in the region of Parthia in northeastern Iran and gradually expanded their control. Their rise began around 247 BC, when Arsaces I established an independent kingdom by taking advantage of the Seleucid Empire's weakening grip on its eastern territories. They called themselves the Arsacid dynasty, and over the next century they expanded to control the entire Iranian plateau and Mesopotamia. The Parthian Empire became Rome's eastern rival for centuries. They halted Roman expansion and maintained control over key trade routes, including segments of what would later be called the Silk Road. Parthian rule was decentralized, relying on noble families and regional autonomy. It preserved Iranian traditions while absorbing influences from both east and west. Then, in 224 AD, another transformation occurred. A Persian noble named Ardashir overthrew the last Parthian ruler Artabanus IV and founded the Sasanian Empire. Under the Sasanians, Iran once again became a highly centralized and powerful state. Zoroastrianism was established as the official religion, and Persian art, architecture, and scholarship flourished. The Sasanians fought long and exhausting wars against the Roman and later Byzantine empires. The Sasanian-Roman wars lasted for over 400 years. The final and most devastating war was from 602 to 628 AD, which drained the economic and manpower of both the empires. It was at this moment that a new force emerged from Arabia. Beginning in the 630s, Muslim Arab armies advanced into Sasanian territories. In the decisive battles of Qadisiyah and Nahavand, the Persian army was defeated. The last Sasanian king, Yazdegerd III, fled east and was executed in 651 AD, marking the end of the empire. With the fall of the empire, Iran gradually became part of the expanding Islamic world. Islam slowly spread across the region, transforming its religious landscape. Yet even under Arab rule, Persian culture endured. The Persian language was revived in a new form, written in Arabic script, and Iranian scholars, poets, and scientists played a central role in what historians call the Islamic Golden Age. Over the following centuries, various dynasties ruled Iran, the most important of which was the Seljuks. The Seljuks were a Turkic dynasty from the Central Asian steppes who converted to Islam. They rose to power in the 11th century by serving as military commanders for the Abbasid Caliphate, whose political authority had weakened over time. Eventually, the Seljuk leaders assumed real power themselves, establishing the Seljuk Empire. Under the Seljuks, much of the Iranian world experienced renewed political stability after centuries of fragmentation. Although the ruling elite were Turkic, they adopted many aspects of Persian culture and governance. Persian became the language of administration, literature, and scholarship across their empire. However, this stability did not last forever. In the early 13th century, the Mongols emerged from the east. Beginning in the 1220s, Mongol forces swept across Central Asia and into Iran with devastating speed, destroying entire cities and causing massive loss of life. Yet even this catastrophe did not permanently break Iran's cultural continuity. By the mid-13th century, Hulagu Khan established a new ruling state in the region known as the Ilkhanate. Over time, the Mongol rulers gradually adopted the traditions of the lands they governed. Many converted to Islam, embraced Persian administrative systems, and supported Persian scholars and artists. The first Ilkhanid ruler to accept Islam was Tekuda, but the real turning point came in 1295 when Ghazan Khan converted and declared Islam the official religion of the Ilkhanate. From that point onward, the Mongol rulers of Iran increasingly adopted Islam and Persian culture. However, the Ilkhanate itself did not last forever. After the death of Abu Sa'id Bahadur Khan in 1335, the Ilkhanate began to collapse. Without a strong successor, rival Mongol commanders and local dynasties fought for control of the region. As a result, Iran once again fragmented into several smaller states ruled by competing powers such as the Jalayirids, the Muzaffarids, and other regional dynasties. For several decades, no single authority was able to reunite the Iranian plateau. This period of political fragmentation continued until the late 14th century, when a new conqueror rose from Central Asia. Timur first rose to power as a skilled military commander during the political chaos that followed the breakup of the Mongol Chagatai Khanate. Through a combination of alliances and relentless military campaigns, he gradually defeated rival tribal leaders and eventually established the Timurid Empire. Although his campaigns were often devastating and many Iranian cities suffered greatly during his invasions, the Timurid period later became a remarkable era of cultural revival. Timur and his successors patronized Persian scholars, architects, and artists. Cities such as Samarkand and Herat flourished as major centers of Persian literature, architecture, and science. However, the Timurid Empire gradually weakened during the 15th century as rival factions fought for power. Iran once again fragmented into smaller states ruled by competing dynasties and tribal confederations. Political instability spread across the region, creating conditions ripe for the rise of a new power. Then, in 1501, a turning point reshaped Iran's identity permanently. A young leader named Ismail I founded the Safavid Empire. After establishment of the Safavid Empire, Ismail I declared Twelver Shia Islam the official religion of the state. This decision distinguished Iran sharply from its largely Sunni neighbors, especially the powerful Ottoman Empire. Even as Iranians adopted this new religious framework, they fiercely preserved their ancient cultural heritage. This dual identity, Persian in culture and Shia in religion, would become a defining feature of Iran. Under the Safavids, particularly during the reign of Shah Abbas I, Iran entered a period of cultural and economic revival. The capital city of Isfahan was transformed into one of the most magnificent cities of the early modern world, famous for its grand mosques and impressive public squares. Trade flourished, art and architecture reached new heights, and the Safavid state firmly established the foundations of modern Iranian identity. However, by the early 18th century, Safavid power began to decline due to internal corruption, economic difficulties, and external pressures. This decline eventually led to invasions and political chaos. For a brief moment, the military genius Nader Shah restored Iranian power in the mid-18th century, even launching a famous campaign into India and capturing the wealth of Delhi. But his empire collapsed soon after his death. In the late 18th century, the Qajar dynasty rose to power and established a new monarchy in Iran. By this time, however, powerful European empires were expanding their influence across Asia. The Russian Empire began pushing southward, seizing territories in the Caucasus, while the United Kingdom sought to dominate southern Iran to protect its colonial interests in India. Although Iran was never formally colonized, it increasingly found itself trapped between these competing powers. Foreign concessions, political pressure, and economic exploitation weakened the state. By the early 20th century, the discovery of oil further intensified foreign interference, which led to the public uprising. The revolution of 1906, known as the Persian Constitutional Revolution, was ignited by the foreign interference. The people forced the Shah to grant a constitution and create a national parliament. For the first time in Iran's long history, people hoped for a government limited by law rather than absolute monarchy, but it didn't happen. The rival empires of United Kingdom and Russian Empire feared a strong independent Iran. With their backing, the Shah crushed the movement and plunged the country back into instability. This instability continued till 1925, when a former military officer, Reza Shah, seized power and established the Pahlavi dynasty. Reza Shah was determined to transform Iran into a modern state. He built railways, strengthened the army, opened modern schools and universities. In 1935, he officially named the country Iran, meaning Land of the Aryans. This continued until World War II. During World War II, Reza Shah tried to balance foreign powers but showed sympathy toward Nazi Germany, hoping it might counter British and Soviet influence. That decision backfired. In 1941, Allied forces from United Kingdom and the Soviet Union invaded Iran, forced Reza Shah to abdicate, and placed his young son, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, on the throne. The new Shah initially ruled under heavy political pressure, and in 1951, a charismatic nationalist leader, Mohammad Mossadegh, became prime minister and took drastic steps. He nationalized Iran's oil industry, taking control from the British-owned Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. Britain responded with economic sanctions and a global oil boycott. When Mossadegh refused to back down, Britain secretly turned to the Central Intelligence Agency. In 1953, the CIA and British intelligence launched Operation Ajax, overthrowing Mossadegh and restoring the Shah's authority. After the coup, Mohammad Reza Shah ruled with far greater power. Backed strongly by the United States during the Cold War, he turned Iran into one of Washington's key allies in the Middle East. American military aid flowed into the country, and Iran purchased vast amounts of Western weapons. The Shah created feared secret police, SAVAK, to silence critics. At the same time, he launched the White Revolution, a sweeping program of land reform, industrialization, and social change. While these policies modernized parts of the economy, they also disrupted traditional society, enriched elites, and widened the gap between rich and poor. This created resentment among the population. The resentments were further intensified in 1971 when the Shah spent enormous sums hosting a spectacular celebration at the ruins of Persepolis, marking what he called 2,500 years of Persian monarchy. This gave an opportunity to his critics, among which the most determined one was Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. Ayatollah Khomeini was one of the most vocal critics of the Shah and his policies. Because of his opposition, he was exiled in 1964, first to Iraq and later to France. From exile, he continued to influence events inside Iran, as his speeches were recorded and smuggled back on cassette tapes. He portrayed the Shah as a tyrant dependent on the United States and called for an Islamic system based on justice, independence, and support for the poor. His message gradually gained momentum, and by 1978, protests had turned into a nationwide uprising. Millions of Iranians took to the streets, and the regime's attempts to suppress them only intensified the unrest. On January 16, 1979, Mohammad Reza left the country. Just weeks later, on February 1st, Khomeini returned to Tehran to a massive reception. Within months, the monarchy collapsed, and in April 1979, the Islamic Republic of Iran was established through a national referendum. The revolution marked a major shift in Iran's foreign policy. Under Khomeini, Iran adopted the principle of neither East nor West, rejecting alignment with both the United States and the Soviet Union. Relations with Washington collapsed after the Iran hostage crisis, beginning decades of tension and hostility. Only a year later, Iran was drawn into a devastating war. In 1980, Saddam Hussein invaded Iran, starting the Iran-Iraq War, which lasted 8 years. The conflict caused massive loss of life and economic damage, ending in 1988 without major territorial changes. After Khomeini's death in 1989, leadership passed to Ali Khamenei. Under his rule, Iran maintained a cautious but often confrontational stance toward the West. While continuing to oppose US influence in the region, Iran also engaged in selective diplomacy when necessary. One key example was the Iran nuclear deal, aimed at easing sanctions in exchange for limits on Iran's nuclear program. However, tensions remained high, especially after the United States withdrew from the agreement in 2018. By the mid-2020s, relations between Iran and the United States were still strained, marked by periodic crises and limited diplomatic engagement. The two countries engaged in talks in the end of 2025, but the situation escalated again after the death of Khamenei in 2026.